Today's experiment is the synthesis of aspirin. So we are going to take salicylic acid and we're going to add to that acetic anhydride, and then your alcohol on your salicylic acid, the O from the alcohol, will attack the carbonyl of your acetic anhydride, which will leave you a positive oxygen and a negative oxygen here. And so the electron pair from the negative oxygen comes down and kicks out the acetate group. And then your acetate group that was kicked out will take the hydrogen off of the oxygen of your ester here, and you have your product. And so you have your aspirin. So aspirin has a carboxylic acid group, and it also has an ester group on it. All right, so that's what we're going to do first. And then we're going to do the oil of wintergreen. So the oil of wintergreen uses the same salicylic acid, so another sample of salicylic acid will be measured. And this time, instead of adding acetic anhydride, we're going to add methanol. And so the methanol oxygen will attack the carboxylic acid, and both of these reactions are done under acidic solutions with sulfuric acid. And so the oxygen attacks the carbonyl of your carboxylic acid. So you have this product, which we are going to then do what is called a tautomerism. And so we're going to move the H from your methanol that came on. We're going to remove this H right here with water, and we are going to put it here. So we show this tautomerism where the OH attacks the H of H3O plus, and your water attacks the hydrogen to deprotonate. And so what we're doing is we're moving a hydrogen, we're taking it off of here, and we are putting it on here. And so that is called a tautomerism. Anytime you're moving a hydrogen from one place to another in the same molecule, it is called a tautomerism. All right, and so now your negative oxygen, it comes down, forms the CO double bond, kicks out water, which is a good leaving group, and you have this ester, which is the oil of wintergreen. So in oil of wintergreen, you have an ester and you have an alcohol. And all of these have your aromatic ring as well. All right, and so the oil of wintergreen is a liquid, and you're going to smell it. You're not, I am. And you will have the nice wintergreen, the scent of wintergreen. The aspirin is, of course, a white solid, and then you can put it into a pill and you can sell it at the store. All right, so let's make those two compounds. All right, so over here I have my salicylic acid. So my bottle of salicylic acid. All right, so I measured out 3.00 grams of salicylic acid using my weigh boat. And I'm going to put that in my 125 ml flask. All right, so you got your 3 grams of salicylic acid. Now, to this, we add 4 mils of acetic anhydride. So acetic anhydride is in this bottle here. It's a concentrated vinegar. If you think vinegar smells bad, multiply it by 20, and that's what that smells like. Not a pleasant odor. All right. And so we're going to put that in here with this. All right, so now we have our 4 mils of acetic anhydride in there with our salicylic acid. And now we're going to add 5 drops of concentrated sulfuric acid. So this is very dangerous stuff. Any acid that is concentrated is going to be very dangerous. All right, so 5 drops of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops. Alright, so now we have our 5 drops of our concentrated sulfuric acid. And now over here, let's see, over here, I have a hot plate and I have a beaker of boiling water. And so we're going to put this in this beaker of boiling water for 15 minutes or until all of that dissolves. Alright, so we are increasing the solubility by increasing the temperature. Alright, so we're going to let that go. So while that's going, we can do, that's got to go for 15 minutes to make our aspirin here. And so while that's going for 15 minutes, we are going to do our oil of wintergreen. Alright, so the oil of wintergreen, salicylic acid. So I have 0.2 grams of salicylic acid in my 50 ml beaker. Alright, and to that, I'm going to add 2 mils of methanol. Alright, so methanol is liquid here. Alright, and so then I'm going to add 5 drops of concentrated sulfuric acid. Again, very careful with concentrated acids. Alright, so 5 drops of concentrated sulfuric acid. Alright, and so this is just, you're forming a clear colorless liquid. So you're not going to get much out of this, but this is oil of wintergreen. And so, and to smell, you do not stick your nose up there and smell, you do this, you waft. So you are smelling the oil of wintergreen. So it says a test tube, but initially it said a test tube. Test tubes are very long, and to get any fumes to come out of the test tube it was not easy. People couldn't smell it, so we use now a 50 ml beaker. And then the smell, you can smell it. It's just not a very strong oil of wintergreen smell. So I should have made this first before I made the soap, and then I could have added this to the soap and had some oil of wintergreen flavored soap. So I know that it's oil of wintergreen. I'm going to stick my nose right in there. Anyway, it's a nice wintergreen smell. So again, there's not much that you can see on a video. That this was mainly for you smell the oil of wintergreen. So, but we do have the mechanism that I showed on the board. Alright, so oil of wintergreen is quite easy to make. A little methanol, some salicylic acid, and we've got oil of wintergreen. Alright, so that is still going on the aspirin, so we're going to put that until it all dissolves. This is quite warm. Alright, so it has all dissolved, so it didn't take 15 minutes to dissolve it. So there's no solid in there, it's all dissolved. Alright. Alright. Alright, so remove the flask from the water bath and add 15 mils of ice water to the flask. Alright, so here I have some ice in a bath, in a water bath, so I'm going to add 15 mils. Alright, now when this gets cold, you're going to see aspirin precipitate out. Alright, so we should see some precipitation. And so you see the white. And so that is the aspirin. So the aspirin is going to form, but this cold water was no match for that boiling hot solution. And so we're going to have to cool it down to get the white aspirin to precipitate out. So now we place it into the beaker of ice until we get our precipitation. So here is our ice water. So I'm going to put it in here, and when we cool this down, we are decreasing the solubility, and we should get the aspirin to form. So once it has cooled, and so this is crystallizing, And anytime you're doing organic synthesis and making a solid, you're going to have to crystallize it, which purifies your solid. Sometimes you have to crystallize it again, which is a recrystallization to get it even more pure. All right, and sometimes these do not want to crystallize, and you have a lot of different techniques. One of them is to add a seed crystal. So if you have some aspirin, you can add a little piece of aspirin, and then it grows from that one piece. That's called a seed crystal. You can keep heating it. You can then cool it, and heating it and cooling it until finally, and then the reason there is you could have too much solvent in there, so it's not going to precipitate out. So as you heat it, you are evaporating the solvent, making it more concentrated, so that when you cool it, it will precipitate out. Scratching it, so if you give it a surface to form crystals on, so you get a stirring rod and you scratch the bottom of the glass to give the crystals a place to crystallize. So now I'm getting some crystals formed, so I don't have to add a seed crystal. I have crystallization on the side. You should be able to see that solid. All right, and as you keep swirling, you're going to get more and more solid. So we have lots of solid in the Erlenmeyer flask here. And so we have made our aspirin, and so we have now lots of solid. All right, so now the whole thing is a white solid mesh of aspirin. All right, so now we have to dry it. So we're going to use a piece of filter paper. All right, so now we're over here. All right, so now we're going to do a vacuum filtration. So we have our filter paper, we have our Buchner funnel, and so we're going to cover all the holes with our filter paper. All right, and then we turn on the water. As the water goes down, it sucks the air, pushing the air down through here. This is a suction filtration. We will need this would be best. We'll need a spatula to get some of this solid out. Doesn't move at all solid. It is completely solid, so we're going to have to scrape it out with our spatula, put it on to our filter paper. Rinse it out with some of our ice cold water, which would clean it. And now you have solubility, so whenever you're washing, you are dissolving some of your product, but you are also washing away any impurities that are on it as well. All right, so now you can see the water that I put in there are getting sucked through the filter. A couple more washes with this ice cold water. All right, so the amount of solid that is dissolving is being made up by the amount of solid that is still coming out of this Erlenmeyer flask. So although we are dissolving some of our product, we are also transferring product into there, and so we're getting a cleaner aspirin. And then we let it dry. So I've run it through 3 times, and now it's sucking the air through there, drying our aspirin. Turn off our boiling water. All right, so you can see that it is still going through there. Let's see over here. All All right, now if we want to make sure that we have aspirin, you would get a melting point of this solid. It doesn't ask for a melting point, so we will. So normally, once you have your solid, after it is dry, you get a melting point. All right, so with the aspirin, we're just going to get the mass of the formed aspirin. Now, our aspirin might be a little wet. Let's see, all right, so to get the mass of our aspirin, we're going to weigh our weigh boat. We're going to put our product in here. All right, except I'm not going to give a mass. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push the 0 mark. And so now it has zeroed out our weigh boat. And then I'm going to scrape our product into there and then weigh it again, and we will have our mass of aspirin. Solid, looks very nice, just like it's supposed to look. Alright, so now I'm going to scoop it into here. I got a lot of it out, and I will take it off of the filters. Now you can hear the air getting pulled through. And then I'll pour the rest of my solid on here. Alright, so we will then have an actual yield for our aspirin. And so our actual yield for the aspirin is 3.66 grams. So 3.66 grams is our mass of aspirin. Alright, and that is the end of the aspirin and oil of wintergreen experiment.